Hey guys, welcome back to the Fulco. Another day, another defeat for Tottenham Hotspur, another difficult morning, and another evening spent, steaming over a poor Tottenham Hotspur performance. And unfortunately, at the minute, that seems to be where we're at as a team. We are, the amazing highs that people keep referencing, the game against Man City and similar. They seem to be the outliers now because we are, we're consistently underperforming. We are consistently having these poor games. And if you have poor performances, likely the results are going to follow in the same manner. So what I talked about a few videos ago is this was a time period going into a busy run of games where I wanted to see a performance against Man City and then let the cards fall where they may. You see what kind of results you get. But some of the other games, we needed points on the board. So in the Prem, we needed to be winning games. We needed to be putting points on the board. And the performance, even though you want to see it, that's the basic thing. Put on the performance and the results should follow. It was about mentality. It was about leadership. It was about aggression. It was about, are we willing to die for the 3 points on the day? Or if you find yourself in a negative situation, are you willing to die to get a draw and get yourself a point? And I don't feel we've been there. I don't feel the level of the performances has been there. And we haven't been getting those results. Now, we have to obviously caveat all of that with a very genuine, injury crisis situation that we find ourselves in. We are in a really, really difficult situation, having effectively lost the spine of the team, the spine of our first team. You would argue that, the players that are missing would all have played, the bulk of the key minutes across these games. But despite that, the players who have been available, I don't think they are putting on a level of performance, especially those who have had a few minutes off the pitch and have had a little bit of rest. I don't think they've quite stepped up. But for me, the leadership element is one of the main ones that we're really struggling with at the minute. We don't look like a team when it's not going our way, who are geeing each other up, talking to each other, communicating, trying to get a result, trying to do something. And that's one of the most disappointing things. So if I try to start off with a few of the positives, we'll talk about Fraser Forster. Again, he was very, very good, dare I say excellent last night in terms of making key saves. He was really, really good. And even I've seen criticism of Forster for the second goal, the disallowed goal for Bournemouth. I don't think that was a bad pass into midfield. I think that's the system, that's the tactic, that's the way it's asked for. And I think it was, even though Decky had a good game, I think he was just a half step off it. And the Bournemouth player wanted that ball more. He was that little bit more aggressive and he got through. That pass to me didn't look like it was offline. It looked like it was a good line into Kulusevski. It was a good line onto a stronger foot where you'd expect him to step across the line of the ball and not allow that player. But that player managed to accelerate at the right time, just get a toe to it, either through Decky's legs or around him. And Decky wasn't able to hold him off. So again, I don't have a problem with that. And in fact, he stepped out and made the save. And him stepping out is what led to Evan Nilsson off the rebound being offside. So I think without Forster over these last 3 matches, we'd have 0 points. We would have no victories whatsoever, no draws whatsoever. So fair play to him. He did very well. Ben Davies deserves credit until he came off. He looks like a very competent understudy, a very competent second choice, left-sided centre half. He did all the things we want him to do. He did well against Fulham. He did well again today. Obviously, this being Tottenham Hotspur, another injury, and it looked like it was a hamstring as well. It looked like he was holding the back of his leg. It didn't look that serious in terms of the way he was moving, the way he came off the pitch, but it'll be weeks for sure. And that just about sums things up with the load that is going through some of the players at the minute. But he did well up until that point, so he deserves credit for that. And Decky was probably, from an attacking point of view, the only player that came out of the game with any credit. largely speaking, he did quite well. He did hold the ball, he did progress the ball, he did beat players. But again, he was just that half step, that half bit off it. That example that I just gave about the disallowed goal. He had a shot early on with his right foot, which was fairly tame. And then he had one on his left where he did cut in on his left. And it was a return to the stuff we were seeing last season and before, where when he was playing on the right, cutting in, but then not having a finish or not having a good delivery. So he was just a little bit off it, but he's net positive. He's in credit for that game and for his performances. So that's really it on the positive side of things. On the negative side of things, or the neutral and negative side of things, or the difficult side of things, there's a lot. You know, we could be here for hours moaning about what we didn't do well. What I do find interesting about last night's game is I didn't go to the game and watching it on TV. So at the Vitality, the gantries, the stands are quite low, and therefore the gantry position for the cameras is low. And what it does give you is it gives you an excellent view, as close to the perspective as the players get of the pitch, right? Because if you watch games on TV, or even if you watch it in the stands because you're raised, you get a much better view of the pitch, and you're thinking, oh, why don't you just spin and then knock a ball out there? Those things aren't as visible to the players. Now, the players, good players, experienced players, the best players, they know what's happening and how the pitch is evolving. But, you know, at that high pressure moment, or if you're not playing well and you've got your head down and, you know, all you can see is the legs around you and the players around you, it's not that obvious. And hopefully what fans got from the view is they saw how well Bournemouth's press was working, how aggressive they were, what a good job they did cutting off passing lanes and hedging their bets between, you know, really being aggressive up against the player who was receiving the ball, but then also being able to get into position to affect the next ball along. And it's a tactic that's been used a couple of times recently to success. Against us, Fulham did it quite well as well, where there's a really, really aggressive initial press, you know, that typical on his touch kind of thing. So a really, really good press to get tight, to be physical, to be aggressive. But if a Tottenham player has secured possession, and on the rare occasions that we did do that, we managed to secure possession and get turned, there's an instant kind of stop, analyse, and then really, really aggressively with real pace and passion, get into the next either pressing or defensive position. And that is the kind of thing we absolutely don't do. Partly by nature of the system, but I don't think we have the players that are that way inclined. They did it really, really well. So hopefully when you were watching that on the TV, you were looking at it thinking, wow, there's no options, there's no one to pass to. Tottenham players certainly could have been braver, certainly could have improved the rotations, getting into positions to receive the ball, but actually Bournemouth deserve a lot of credit for how they set up and how they defended and how aggressive and how front foot they were. It was definitely one of those where you felt like they were more on it than we were. We know there's reasons for that. There's a lot more games going through the Tottenham players' legs. Bournemouth have longer to prepare for things without European football. But I still think that with the first team, the team that started that game, there's no excuse in the first 45 minutes for how poor we were. You could certainly put on a 45-minute performance and then say, okay, it dropped off later in the game. But the players were out there. I think there were enough players who should have done a bit better. I can maybe excuse Brendan Johnson, who is doing an extraordinary amount of really, really long running and constantly plays every game and every minute. But the rest, you know, it was poor. It wasn't good enough. The players have come out and said that after the game as well. But yeah, I think if we look across the team, last night my patience with Bissouma, I think, reached just about cracking point. I've been here before with him last season where, you know, it started towards the end of the season, rumours, and could we sell Bissouma? Oh my God, no, he's the best receiver of a ball in the Prem. He's completely press resistant. Not true whatsoever. My patience with him it is just almost, it's at an end. The situation that I'm specifically referring to, where, you know, I'm thumping on the arms of my armchair, is we lose possession again. We turn over possession again. And Bissouma's angle of run to get the ball back, to win the ball back, is completely wrong. He runs the wrong line. So he runs a line that, instead of putting him in a goal side on the shoulder position, so this was, as you're looking at it from the TV screen, it was on the far touchline where the benches were. Instead of running the players, would have been, I think, left shoulder, but getting into a goal side position so he can hedge, he can make sure there's no out, there's no turn down the line. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to box you in, L-shaped box you in, so you've got the touchline to deal with. You've got me making sure you don't turn, and therefore your only option right now is a negative sideways pass, a negative backwards pass, or you're going to have to beat me. You're going to have to do something really, really good to beat me. He runs the wrong line. He gets the wrong side. He allows the player, therefore, to get out, and then he climbs all over him, brings him down because he's on the attack, and it's a yellow card. And it's infuriating because it's not that he was on the break and Biss had to lunge in to stop him in a dangerous position because he got away. No, he just ran the wrong line. He just gets it wrong. This is the kind of thing that if I was working with, I don't know, under 12s, I'd be pretty upset that you ran that line. I'd certainly be talking to you about it and making sure that you work on that, but not a senior professional. And it doesn't matter whether you're an actual number 6 or not. All you needed to do is get in the right position so he gets the running line. And I'm sitting there shouting as I see the running line, because it's a really good view, because it's on about the halfway line, or just over the halfway line. I'm shouting at it that he's running the wrong line as he's on his way to it. Not afterwards and what happens afterwards. Afterwards is just a confirmation of my own bias that he's running the wrong line. Listen, if he gets over and he wins it or he does something good, then fine. But it's about consequences. If you do the wrong thing and you get a negative result, you get hammered. If you do the wrong thing, get away with it, you've probably got lucky. So I was fuming, and that was a symptom of, we're not doing this well, we're not playing well, we're not doing the right things, you know, simple, basic things. And, you know, I'm absolutely fuming. And that was it. And it's just like, as much as Bissouma at times picks up the ball, does manage to take good first touches past people, there's no end result to it at the minute. There's no positive to it. He's not, you know, using that phenomenal talent on the ball to break lines and then do something with it. Excuse me. So, yeah, I lost patience with Bissouma, and obviously that again highlights Bentancur and the loss that he is to be able to change that up. Udogie is continuing to really struggle this season. He's having a very poor season. The Bournemouth goal is, you know, we can statistically talk about, well, Tottenham have only now conceded 4 set-piece goals. Eventually, that's going to climb back up because it is an issue. Decky referenced it in his post-match interview, but it wasn't that was an Arsenal-style brilliant set piece. It's really hard to defend. That again is just basic. It's just completely basic. Dragushin is the one for me who gets it wrong in the box. He spends too much time looking at the ball. He's the one, I think, who's charged with marking the defender. The defender makes an arced run to the back post. We always tend to be, you know, a bit short of the back post. Dragushin decides to take a straight beeline back to the middle of his goal. That's not helpful if the ball reaches the far post. And Udogie he spends far too long watching the flight of the ball. gets it completely wrong, and then he looks absolutely leaden trying to get up, and he hardly gets off the ground, and the ball just drops in behind him. He doesn't take a back step. He doesn't make aggressive or positive movements towards the ball. And I don't mean towards the ball. I mean he needs to be on his toes, back steps, making it as absolutely difficult. If anyone's coming, he should be aware. He should see the player coming around. But even if you're not, be willing to get hit in the back of the head. Right now, your focus is that ball that's dropping into your zone. He doesn't. So he doesn't cover himself in glory. Dragushin is nowhere to be seen. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. I think that's really simple, really basic stuff. This isn't the kind of stuff that, you'd say the coaching staff particularly needs to work on. This is, players should be doing this. And yeah, really easy goal. Really, free header, knocks it back towards the second post and it's 1-0. So poorly defended. Radu, who otherwise was okay, his distribution isn't great, but he does okay. And he had a good moment against, I think it's Ouattara, who's very, very quick, terrible finisher apparently, but he had a good moment where, he matched him physically and forced him to spoon one over the bar. But yeah, not good enough. Simple moments. You're away from home. You give the opposition a set piece and it validates their game plan. And their game plan was not to beat us with set pieces. They played really, really well. But you give them a foothold. You give them a goal, which also means that they can be a little bit more conservative. Yeah, they can be a little bit more conservative and they can just really focus their energy on the press, on the defending, on the 1v1 duels. It's very simple stuff, but we're not doing our bit. We're not doing our part of it, and we're getting punished for it. So really, really disappointed with the goal, disappointed with Udogie's performance. He had, I think, Udogie again in the second half, one against Cliver maybe, where the ball is hit crossfield on a counter. And again, Udogie arcs his run inside the Bournemouth half wrongly towards the player. And you're thinking to yourself, now the angle you're running at and the position you're putting yourself in, if you don't win this, he is running into open ground in our half. And Cliver does well, good touch, and manages to get on the other side. But Udogie just weak. He doesn't engage him in contact. He doesn't get up and win the ball. He runs the wrong line. He puts himself in a bad position. All he's got to do is run a different line to the goal side of the player. And again, that L shape where the ball's coming and you've got to deal with a floated ball over the top with me pressuring you. And I'm going to hit you and I'm going to body you. And all right, if I give away a free kick in your half, I do. But actually, I'm going to make this so difficult. I'm going to make this as difficult as I possibly can. Doesn't do that. Cliver's in far too easy and forced to make a good save. Disappointing. Udogie's season is a disappointment. And the only defence you've got of him is that he doesn't get much of a rest because the club haven't signed players. We haven't got enough players. We don't trust Jed Spence. So yeah, all in all, club, team, staff, not good enough, and we're getting what we deserve, which is absolutely nothing. I think, without going through all the minor details on what we did wrong, Bournemouth deserved the win. We deserved absolutely nothing. We are in a difficult run, so we're not playing particularly well. We've got loads of injuries. We are not confident, clearly. And again, I think last night, do I agree with Ange's changes? No, I really don't. As I said, I lost my temper with Biss. Biss would have been the player to get pulled for me. Drop Sarr into the 6. Bring Decky back into the middle. Change your wide options, bring Son on potentially as your first change into the wide options. And that for me would have been the change. And I know Ange will point to a little uptick after that change, and he'll say that Maddison got on the ball a little bit, and we looked a little bit better, and that is right. But it wasn't enough. It was it was 7 minutes maybe, and that was it. And then Bournemouth got back on top, and I don't agree with the changes. I felt like Biss was the one to drop. He had some nice touches later on, but again, doesn't lead to anything. So looking at it and saying, oh yes, but he secured possession here, we managed to pass the ball. We didn't do anything. We didn't get anywhere with it. And then, when we brought on Berryval, we moved Gray up. Again, it didn't have a desired impact. There wasn't something different that happened on the pitch. So the changes aren't really working out for us either, limited as they are. Again, we've all got our opinion, and that's my opinion. My opinion doesn't mean I'm Ange out. It just means I disagree with the changes that were made. I disagree with timings of the changes, and I felt that our strongest midfield three is arguably Decky, Sarr, Biss at the minute with the players available. But I wouldn't have taken Maddison off. So as Ange kept Maddison on, I wouldn't have taken him off. I would have taken off Biss. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Post-game, fans are fuming. We're all fuming. I don't agree with, personal abuse. I don't see any reason for us to treat Ange to abuse about the way he looks. Some people think that's acceptable. I don't. But I absolutely would have, with plenty of four-letter words, contested the performance, contested the decisions based on the tactics and the changes, and the level of commitment and desire that was put out, particularly in the first 45 minutes. Now, when you're shouting at a manager in the heat of the moment, and he's walked over and you've got about 15 seconds to get it all off your chest, maybe you can't have a reasoned train of thought. But that's why I talk to the camera to try and get it off my chest. And to share it with you guys. So, I'm not Ange out. I understand the frustrations. I understand the frustrations with the club. They're not going anywhere. The club, the board, the club, the recruitment let us down time and time again, and we're no different right now. We've got a difficult run where we've got, I think, Chelsea, Man U and Liverpool in our next, 4 or 5 games coming up. We've got those 3 in there, one of those being a cup. I can, with the unpredictability of Tottenham, I can see us doing really well in a couple of those big games and, potentially, could we do something? But by the same token, I could see this being, the wheels off situation where it all goes against us, just like last season when we had horrendous injuries and suspensions and the wheels came off. I can see this being another situation where we're in exactly that same boat. All of these go against us, lots of defeats across the board, picking up no points, sliding down the league table, or just hanging around in mid-table, doing not very much, and then starting to get knocked out of cup competitions. So out of the Carabao, because Amorim is in and Man U might have turned a corner. You'd hope we wouldn't lose to Tamworth in the new year, but who knows with Tottenham. And then, we're going to be in a really difficult situation. So there's not a great deal to be positive about. We're still all going to be watching the games. We're still all going to be going to the games. We're still going to be trying to back our team, but we're not seeing a great deal that we can get behind at the minute. So difficult times, difficult moments. Let's see if there's any character in this group. Let's see if the coaching staff have got some character. Let's see if the players have got some. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Try and enjoy the rest of your week, and then let's see what we do on Sunday. Come on, Tottenham.